What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to this week's Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today. If this is your first time tuning into the channel, welcome. Please click that subscribe button. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and we are getting damn close. If you have been here before, welcome back. You probably noticed things are a little bit different. Why am I not at the bar? Why are we not doing a review of bourbon? Well, my computer got a little bit messed up this week. I had to reinstall Windows. If you know anything about that, you know how difficult that can be for somebody who doesn't know anything about computers. So for today, we are going to do something a little bit different. If you don't already know, I work at an ice cream store. I run and manage that store, and we obviously have a lot of younger employees, many of them being in high school. They told me about this website called Tier List, which is apparently blowing up here on YouTube, getting millions of views for these people. So I figured, why not check out a tier list for bourbon? And they actually told me they had it. So let's check it out. So here we have it. I'm going to be looking over here because this is where my second monitor is, but I am focusing on you guys here. This is Tier List. This is what they have. They basically have a ranking system. They randomize these bourbons. I did not put them on there myself. So we're going to go through here. We're going to put these on the tier list, and then you're going to tell me if I did it right, did it wrong, or where you would put some of yours. Let's get to it. We're going with Buffalo Trace store pick here. This is the Fine Wine and Good Spirits store pick. I figured we'll do that one because, well, it's second on the list here. So I don't really feel like drinking Basil Hayden's, which is going to be our first one. And we'll tell you where we're putting that on the list right now. So Basil Hayden's, if you haven't watched one of my recent videos, we just did the Basil Hayden toast. If you don't know how I feel about Basil Hayden's, basically I started out with a love for Basil Hayden's. One of the first bourbons that I got into, the 80 proof, very easy sipping, very easy to drink. Everything about it tasted good. It wasn't overwhelming, it wasn't overpowerful, but at the same time, being that introduction bourbon that it is a fantastic pour. Now, if you're past the introduction bourbon stage, if you're past the Basil Hayden stage, you might not like it anymore. And we actually re-ranked Basil Hayden's and moved it down on the list a little bit. So we're going to start. Now, I'm only going to put these. This isn't saying this is the best or this is the worst bourbon. This is just saying amongst the peers on this list, where do these bourbons fall? And I'm going to put, you know, Basil's going to fall for what we have on this list here. I'm going to put it down in the D section. You know, it's not that good. Once you get past that introduction stage, like I said, you're really going to not fall in love with Basil's the way you did. Now, a lot of people do love Basil still. I personally just feel like it's not enough for the money that you're putting into it. That's a $40 bottle of bourbon. It's the high rye mash bill, which I do enjoy, but at an 80 proof, I just really can't justify putting it any higher on our list. Let's get into Buffalo Trace though. So up next we have Buffalo Trace, and Buffalo Trace is another tough one on this list because for a $26 bottle of bourbon, when you can find it, it's a fantastic pour. I absolutely love Buffalo Trace. I got the store pick going right now. The flavors are fantastic. But is it like really the best bourbon? Does it really? I don't think it deserves to be in an A, but it definitely doesn't deserve to be down here at a Basil Hayden's at the D section. For what we have on this list, I'm actually going to put this at the C section. Now, I don't think that's because it's a C bourbon, but for what we have on the list, I don't really think it deserves to be up there with some of the other bourbons that we're going to put, but I also don't think it deserves to be down there with the Basil Hayden's. So let's put Buffalo Trace for now. I might shuffle these around at the end. Let's put it at a C. Let's leave it there for now and see where it falls later. Up next, we have Elijah Craig, and this is where things are going to start to get controversial right off the rip. Elijah Craig and me do not have a great relationship. I love Heaven Hill. I love everything that Heaven Hill puts out, except for some reason the Elijah Craig line. It just doesn't sit well with me. When I first tried the Elijah Craig, and again, this is the small batch here. It's kind of hard to tell. I can barely tell on my computer. But the Elijah Craig small batch just has this flavor profile that I do not enjoy. Now, that's a personal preference for me. I'm going to put this on the list where most people would not. So make sure if you haven't had Elijah Craig, you do go out and try it because it seems to be one of people's favorites. But for me, everybody has that one. Everybody has a bottle that they don't like that everybody else loves. And for me, that's Elijah Craig, which is why we're going to put it down here with the F. I don't even think it deserves to be up there with Basil Hayden. I think Basil Hayden has more to offer for that proof of a bourbon. Elijah Craig just is not it. Now, again, this is a personal preference thing. If you love Elijah Craig, I completely get it. There's a lot of bourbons out there that I love that most people don't, or some people don't. Everybody has a preference, everybody has a favorite, and everybody has a least favorite. Elijah Craig just happens to be one of mine. So up next, we're going to have Eagle Rare. Now, Eagle Rare is one of those bottles, again, coming out of Buffalo Trace, very sought after, very hard to find. 10-year age statement on this, coming in at 90 proof. This bottle right here is either loved because you can get it and you've had it, or hated because you can't. but the only reason that you don't like this bottle is because you can't get your hands on it, or you think it's too hard to find, or you think the hype isn't real enough. But for the price on this bottle at 90 proof and a fantastic pour, you really can't go wrong putting Eagle Rare at the top of your list. Now again, this is just with the bourbons that we're sticking with on this list right now, but Eagle Rare is just a fantastic pour. There's nothing really you can hate about Eagle Rare except for the availability of it. But other than that, Eagle Rare is going to sit at the top of our list. You can hate on Buffalo Trace, you can hate on supply and demand all you want, but for a 10-year bourbon for that price tag, you really can't beat it. And with the bourbons that we have right now in this list, Eagle Rare is going to sit on the top. So as you can see, the next one here, this is the Four Roses. Now I again can't tell if this says small batch or small batch select. I believe it's just the small batch. And if you know anything about my love for Four Roses, it is exactly that, a love for Four Roses. I love everything they put out. I love the small batch select. I love their yellow label bottom shelf, all the way up to their single barrels. I've had them all. I love them all. I got a couple of them on the shelves right now. Now the question is, do I think it's still, you know, at a $45 bottle? Does it deserve to be down here with Buffalo Trace? Or does it deserve to be up here with Eagle Rare? I don't think either of those. I think it falls right in the middle here in that B section. It's definitely not Eagle Rare tier, but there's no way that I would put this any further below Buffalo Trace. It definitely doesn't deserve to be down there with Basil Hayden's, and we've already talked about Elijah Craig. Four Roses is one of those lines. If you haven't tried it, you need to go out and try it. They're OBSV mash bills. They have all different kinds of mash bills for their single barrels and everything like that. So go out, try Four Roses, and let me know what you think about it. We're going to put it in the B section for now. So up next on our list, we have Bulleit Bourbon. And Bulleit Bourbon is one of those bourbons that is so versatile that it automatically jumps it up a tier or two just for that simple fact alone. Now, this is something you can put it in an old fashioned, you can put it in a Manhattan, you can drink it neat on the rocks, put a little bit of water on it, outside at a fire, inside with the air conditioning on. You can do it all with Bulleit Bourbon, and I absolutely love that about this bottle. Now, I don't think it deserves to be down here because of the versatility, but I wouldn't quite put it up here with the Four Roses. I just think the flavor profile on the Four Roses stands out a little bit more than the Bulleit Bourbon. So we're going to put Bulleit Bourbon right here with Buffalo Trace, where I think it belongs, middle of the pack, easy price, easy availability, can always find it on the shelves. Bulleit Bourbon is going to be a C for our current display here. So as you can see up next here, we have the Knob Creek Single Barrel. Now this coming out of Jim Beam, $45 I believe this is about average for MSRP. This is the single barrel, and I've only ever had this out at the bar one time, so I can't speak too much on it. I do remember it was pretty good. It was pretty memorable. I think this has like a 9-year age statement on it for this particular bottle. Again, it's kind of tough to tell here. And then this is 120 proof. So bang for your buck, you're definitely getting a good deal here. I'm not the biggest Knob Creek fan when it comes to some of these bottles. We'll get into we already have another Knob Creek and 2 more Knob Creeks on here that we're going to talk about. But the single barrel, again, I don't think it's quite up there with the Four Roses yet. It's definitely not up there with the Eagle Rare. A single barrel is going to be tough though, because your barrel might be a lot better than my barrel. But at 120 proof, gives you the bang for your buck. I'm going to put this right here with Bulleit Bourbon and Buffalo Trace, and I think that's where it belongs. It's not the best bottle, and again, Knob Creek coming out of Jim Beam isn't my favorite line. It's kind of tough. The 12-year I do really enjoy. The 9-year, which we're going to get into here in a second, and then the 15-year, a little bit too much oak, not enough oomph. They just don't seem to balance it out very well. So we'll put Knob Creek at a C. It definitely doesn't deserve to be down any lower than that. Up next, though, we're going to move right into the Knob Creek 9-year, and that one is one of those that I just do not enjoy. Again, Knob Creek, much like Elijah Craig, is just one of those lines that I don't love. Something about it, I don't know why. I do love Jim Beam. I love their Booker's line. There's a bunch of Jim Beam products that I do enjoy. The Knob Creek 9-year, though, is kind of going to fall down here with this Basil Hayden's. It's definitely not as good as the single barrel. There's a Knob Creek 9-year. I believe there's a 100 proof and the 120 proof. I haven't had the 120 proof, so I'm just going to assume this is the 100 proof and put this down here with Basil Hayden's. And last but certainly not least in our Knob Creek lineup is the Knob Creek Smoke Maple. Now this one is just one of those bottles. I am not a big fan of any type of flavored whiskey, other than like Screwball. If I'm like 3 sheets to the wind out at the bar, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, I want to take shots of something, peanut butter whiskey, whatever, let's do it. Other than that though, I don't even know if I can put this down here and only good for mixing. I don't know. I've never had it in a mixer. I've tried it straight up. Not for me. We're going to put this below F, not in the bourbon category. Doesn't count. Flavor added, whatever you want to say. This is going to be down here only good for mixing. I wouldn't recommend buying a bottle of it. So up next here, we're going to have Larceny. I'm assuming this is the 92 proof small batch. This is a wheated bourbon. If you know anything about my previous reviews, I'm not the biggest fan of wheated bourbons. Weller's have a pretty good lineup. Maker's Mark is probably one of the most famous wheated bourbons that you're going to know, which is coming up right next on the list here. But Larceny is just not for me. I have a huge bottle of Larceny back there that I got as a bachelor party gift, and it's not my favorite. It'll sit on the shelf. Maybe I'll make a couple mixed drinks with it, but even that, I like a high rye mash bill when I'm doing like an old fashioned or anything like that. Larceny, I'm going to put down here with Elijah Craig. It's almost disrespectful to Larceny because, again, I don't like Elijah Craig that much. So let's switch these up. I'm going to put Larceny in front of Elijah Craig, and I'll probably put Knob Creek in front of Basil's for right now. I just don't believe that Elijah Craig is that good. Larceny, though, isn't my favorite. I'll take shots of it just to get rid of the bottle, but we're going to put it down there in the F. And again, that doesn't mean it's a failure of a bourbon. It just means in our current ranking system, that's where we're going to put it. Up next, the second wheated bourbon on this list is going to be Maker's Mark. And Maker's Mark is definitely a better wheated bourbon than Larceny. Everything about Maker's Mark seems bourbony. Everything about it is history. You go, I want to dip my own Maker's Mark bottle so I can get the red wax on it. Love the red wax. Some people don't like the red wax. They can't get it off. Figure it out. You're an adult. Make sure you can get it off. It's not childproof. You know what I mean? Maker's Mark, though, being a wheated bourbon, is still not my favorite. It's definitely my favorite of the wheated bourbons as far as like the original batches go. Now, I can't compare foolproof Weller to a Maker's Mark, but like a Weller Special Reserve versus a Maker's Mark would probably be a pretty good matchup. As far as my personal decision on this, I'm going to put this right up here in the C section. And I'll actually, C section. My wife's pregnant. Hopefully we don't have to go through that, but we're going to put that right up here, and I'm going to put it, I think, second, maybe third. I'm not really sure how this should fall yet. We'll take a look at this at the end and make sure it's all right, but Maker's Mark is definitely going to be up here with the Buffalo Trace, the Bullets, and the Knob Creek Single Barrel. Up next, we're back into the high rye mash bills here with Redemption Bourbon. Now, Redemption Bourbon should be very good to me. I should enjoy Redemption Bourbon based off the mash bill, based off everything that it has going for it, but for some reason, me and Redemption just don't get along. Again, one of those bourbons that I had at my bachelor party. A bunch of us tried it. We just didn't enjoy it. Now, do I think it deserves to be only good for mixing? I don't, but do I think it deserves to be up here with the rest of these bottles? I don't think that either. I think Redemption Bourbon is down here, but it's definitely in the front of this list. Now, it's very close between the D and F mark for me, but for me, since I don't have a A-, B-, C-, D-, and F is F, but Redemption Bourbon is definitely going to be hanging down here from me and my personal preferences on bourbon. It's just not good to me. If you've seen any of my reviews, a lot of these bottles are already on it. Eagle Rare is not on it, so make sure you remember this, because when we do get Eagle Rare on there, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage when it comes to guessing that score. But as for Redemption Bourbon, we're going to place it down there for right now. Like I said, I might move things around, but it definitely deserves to be down there on my list. Up next is Straight Edge. Now, Straight Edge is a bourbon that we are going to put at the top of the... no, I'm just kidding. I've actually never had Straight Edge in my life, so we're going to leave Straight Edge down here. But what I want you to do is, if you have had Straight Edge, tell me where you would put it amongst these bourbons on this list. We're just going to keep it down here. We'll move it to the end. Sounds like a good bourbon. I looked it up. I can't get it here in Pennsylvania. Maybe if I go across the border, hit Delaware or something like that, we can get our hands on it. But we're going to leave Straight Edge down here. Again, in the comments, let me know what you think of Straight Edge and if I should buy it so we can add it to this list. So up next, one of our last two here. This is 1792. Again, I can't tell if this says sweet wheat or small batch. I'm just going to assume it is the small batch. And if you have watched any of my reviews, you know that I think 1792 is one of the... Just kidding. It's one of the best bourbons that I've had, and it's a sleeper pick. Now, do I think it's an Eagle Rare? Absolutely not. As far as somebody who's new to bourbon, if you haven't had 1792, this is probably sitting on your shelves. This is a Sazerac product, which is the same company that owns Buffalo Trace. It's Barton. Everything that they have done so far that I have tried is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to put this right up next to Four Roses. Now, this is non-age stated, and it is a high rye mash bill, but they don't disclose the actual mash bill. It's somewhere between that 15 to 20% rye from everything I've read. So make sure you try 1792. It's won awards, but for some reason, not a lot of people seem to be talking about it. Definitely pick up a bottle of this if you haven't had it the next time you're at your liquor store. 1792, Barton Distillery. Don't forget it. And last but certainly not least, we have Woodford Reserve. Now, this comes from Brown-Forman Distillery. It's 90.4 proof. You probably heard of it because of the Kentucky Derby, and if you haven't, you should get a little bit more into horse racing because it's a lot more fun to watch that way with a couple of drinks. But other than that, this one is memorable. It's definitely unique. At the $35 to $40 price tag, it definitely isn't the worst bourbon that I had, but it's definitely not the best bourbon. It's not up here with the Four Roses or the 1792. So I'm going to put this right here next to Buffalo Trace on our C line. Very average, pretty good price tag. It's unique. You're definitely going to know that you're sipping on this when you're sipping Woodford Reserve. They do have a double oaked that I absolutely love. So much chocolate on that bottle right there. But this is where we're going to leave our list. Let me know in the comments below where you think all of these bourbons should fall. If you think any of them should be on a different spot, let me know that as well. I'll put the link in the description below so you can try this out. Send it to me. Send me a screenshot if you want on Instagram, at Bourbon of the Week on Instagram, and I can see where you put your bourbons on this. But that's going to be it for this week. Make sure you check me out on Instagram, like I mentioned, at Bourbon of the Week. You can go on and try and guess the scores of the bourbons that I review. If you guess closest to the score that I give it, you'll get a shout out on the channel, as well as entered in a monthly drawing for some cool prizes, including custom Glencairns, coasters, hoodies, shirts, all kinds of stuff like that. Also, like I said, make sure you click that subscribe button. We are on the road to 1,000 and we are so close. Click that like button while you're down there as well. Last but not least, come chat with us on Discord. I'll put that link down below. You can chat with all these people all over the country, including myself. We talk bourbon 24/7. And if you want to, check out my Patreon. You can support me on Patreon, help me buy some of these bourbons and keep this production value up. With a baby girl on the way, it's definitely going to get a little bit more difficult to keep going at this rate. That's going to be it for today. Again, I appreciate you guys joining me, and that's going to be all. Cheers.